It's time for a conversation with Peter Range because it's time for Say Yes to Life. Good morning, Mr. Range. Going to bring us up on all things to do with pro-life community throughout our nation. Good morning,
Hey,
Peter.
Peter.
Hi, Pete.
Hey, good morning, Dave, Ron, Pat. Great to be with you this morning. I'm going to change the name of the segment from Say Yes to Life to Home on the Range Pro-Life Update. What do you guys think?
I like it. I like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we all like that. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. Hey, just a quick update. Last week, Nellie Roach of Choose Life Marketing was on the show on Say Yes to Life on Thursdays at 4 p.m. Eastern. This week, Father David Kidd of the Diocese of Toledo, we're going to be talking about, what priests can do to help the faithful be formed in being pro-life. So I'm very excited for that conversation. Father David Kidd always brings the Holy Spirit with him, so I'm looking forward to this week's conversation with him. But this week on Say Yes to Life, here a little segment, or a Home on the Range segment, I just wanted to cover the March for Life, which was this past Friday. I flew into Washington, D.C. in the morning, and I flew directly out that evening because there was a massive snowstorm that we're now all experiencing here in the Midwest and Northeast. So thankfully I made it in safely and back home safely as well. But just a few things about the March for Life. One, I was impressed by how many people actually came despite the impending snowstorm. I expected crowds to be much smaller, and they may have been a little bit, but certainly no different than any other March for Life I've been to, and I've been to probably over 20 of them now in Washington, D.C. So very thankful that the faithful really showed up to witness to the dignity of human life. And they do that year in and year out in what is probably the world's largest kind of pro-life rally across the globe. Secondly, it was interesting. Vice President J.D. Vance spoke, and there was a little bit of controversy having him speak there. There were some pro-lifers upset that the administration, for example, is not taking more action right now on the abortion pill. But he said a few things that struck me at the talk. One, again, of course, re-announcing that him and his wife, Usha, are having their fourth child. So last year, of course, he encouraged Americans to continue to have babies. And then he practiced what he preached, and he's going out and he's having another child with his wife, which is super exciting. So we should pray for Usha and their fourth child. But one of the first conversations I ever had with the now Vice President J.D. Vance was at the Ohio March for Life when he actually spoke when he was then Senator J.D. Vance. And we spoke about an article that we both read concerning the ancient pagan world and how in the ancient pagan world, particularly in ancient Rome, when you would find a brothel, you would find, unfortunately, the discarding of baby bones at that brothel, particularly little baby boy bones, because they weren't useful for the people who ran the brothel. And so we talked about how all sin, whether it was David with Bathsheba or, in ancient Rome and these kind of brothels, how all sin, sexual sin, it leads to death. And we see that in our own culture where sexual sin is just, it's outside the bounds of marriage. And when that happens, it often leads to death, as in this abortion issue, where 81% of women who are making love outside the marital covenant and bond, 81% are single who end up having those abortions. So we know marriage is an antidote to building a culture of life. But the last thing that struck me about when JD was speaking, there was a protester, a pro-life protester, God bless his soul, who was yelling towards President Vance in a respectful tone and manner, but he was saying, hey, you guys need to do more on the abortion pill. And he paused and he actually addressed that protester. You could tell that that meant something to him. And he said, look, there's things that we're doing in the administration. We're trying to work one way or another. And I think there's, quite frankly, a war within our current administration. Some people who are more worried about elections upcoming than they are about the pro-life cause. And then there's some who just are really passionately pro-life who are fighting to do more. But it's difficult when you have challenges across the administration and, different things that the president has said recently, for example, on being flexible on hides. So let's continue to pray for, everybody in Congress and everybody who's in the administration currently, that they'll do all they can do to protect human life. But it's important we march in D.C., and then we march locally as well. So contact your local parish, your local diocese, to figure out where the local marches are taking place. One it really helps to scare politicians on both sides of the aisle, and that's something that we need to do because most politicians, look, they're human. They're worried about their next election. So when they see, whether it's thousands or hundreds of thousands, as the Washington, D.C. March brings every year, it makes them think about their electorate and where their electorate stands. And I've known politicians who've come to, a small little march, and they're like, oh, why did I come to this? There's only 5 people here. But when they see hundreds there, where they see thousands, it does make a difference. And they are moved to be more pro-life. And I'll explain how that happened just recently there in D.C. But that's why it's important to march. It scares politicians on both sides of the aisle when they're thinking about their electorate. Number 2, it inspires folks to get involved. And I know so many who go to the March for Life, when they come back home locally, they want to get more involved. And that's really important. I remember one of the first marches for life that I led for the Diocese of Toledo. One of the young men who came on the trip actually was so inspired, he went directly to the abortion facility upon returning from the March for Life. He held a pro-life sign, pray to end abortion. And there was a woman who came out and approached him from the abortion facility and actually chose life. She said, I was looking for a sign today, whether or not I should do this. You're my sign. I'm going to choose life. So it's absolutely amazing what marches can kind of inspire us to do. And then lastly, and this is what happened in D.C. as well, it makes pro-lifers who are in office get to work in D.C. So between January 21st and 23rd, the administration took a lot of different actions so that they could, one, I hope, advance the pro-life cause, but then 2, announce it at the March for Life. It made them take a lot of actions. And it wouldn't happen if, we wouldn't have been there marching on a yearly basis. They knew we were coming down, right? So that's why the National Institute of Health announced that for all NIH-supported research, it will now redirect funding away from human fetal tissue research and instead focus on other studies with greater potential to develop treatments and cures. It's why the Small Business Administration announced that it would review over $88 million in Planned Parenthood Paycheck Protection Program loans. So those small things were taken by the administration. There's 5 other things, but it's because we went down there in March. So wherever you're out, go out and march. Don't stop doing that. And then we can all enjoy a great life at a home on the range someday.
Absolutely. Thank you, Peter Range.